Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the UK's planning system. We're going to unpack how local decisions, specifically about renewable energy, have somehow become this high-stakes gateway to a massive multi-billion-pound investment race.
All right, so let's get right into it with a real head scratcher. It's all about a planning decision that, when you first look at it, seems to make no sense at all. It really makes you wonder how the system is even supposed to work.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Our source material zooms in on a solar farm case in a place called Wisboro Green. Now, in this case, the officials in charge of road safety openly admitted the plan did not meet legal standards. And yet, it still got the green light. So how on earth does that happen?
And get this isn't just some angry resident making a claim. This is a direct summary of the official position. It's a shocking breakdown, right? A legal standard wasn't met, they admitted it, and they approved the project anyway. To figure out why, we have to look at the rulebook.
So where do we find the first clue? Well, according to our source, it's not some secret backroom deal. It's actually a very public, very recent change to the National Planning Rulebook, and this one change completely tilted the playing field.
So what happened? It comes down to a tiny but really powerful deletion. Before December 2023, the rules had a clear safety net. If a project's negative impacts couldn't be made acceptable, you could say no. Well, that requirement was just erased from the National Planning Policy Framework, and that opened the door for a whole new way of making decisions.
Okay, so if they took that safeguard out, what did they put in its place? This, a new rule that forces decision makers to give significant weight to the benefits of renewable energy. What that means in the real world is that known problems, like say a road that doesn't meet safety standards, can now be approved, as long as a committee decides the benefits are bigger than the risks. All of a sudden, legal safety standards are no longer a red line, they're negotiable.
All right, so that's the policy change. But that's only part of the story. The next piece of the puzzle, it's where the big money comes in. Because a tweak to the rules doesn't explain the crushing pressure that local councils are now under. The real driver here is cash. A lot of it.
See, the source makes this really interesting point. The rule change is one thing, but it's what happens when you combine it with a huge financial incentive that really lights the fuse. It's turned these quiet local planning meetings into the front lines of a massive national investment battle.
And here is the number that just changes the entire game. 40 billion pounds. That is the amount of private investment per year that's been unleashed by new grid connection rules. And now all of that capital is in a desperate race to find projects that are ready to go. So you've got all this money desperate to find a home. How does a developer get a piece of that action? Well, to get to the front of the line for a grid connection, which is the only way a project can actually make money, you have to prove your project is shovel-ready. And what's the golden ticket to proving that? You guessed it, getting planning permission first. And this quote from the source material just nails it. Think about that for a second. A local council's decision isn't just about what gets built down the road anymore. It's now the trigger that gives one massive company a competitive edge over another in a multi-billion-pound race. A yes or no vote in a town hall can literally redirect fortunes. Okay, so let's put it all together. You've got weakened rules on one hand and a $40 billion gold rush on the other. What does that actually feel like for the people in the room making these calls? Well, the source argues it's created a system that is under almost unbearable pressure. Just imagine you're sitting on that committee. You're being told you have to give significant weight to renewables. You know that if you vote no, millions of pounds of investment will just pack up and go to the next town over. You know this developer is in a frantic race against their competitors, and that national energy targets and even shareholder returns are all riding on your vote. And you're weighing all of that against a local safety issue. The deck is just completely stacked against you. And look, the source is clear. This isn't just some abstract theory. They point right back to that Wisboro Green case as a perfect, real-world example of how this pressure can warp the entire decision-making process. So check this out. In that case, the applicant made a big claim about how much energy the project would produce. But objectors shot back with a technical rebuttal, saying, hold on, that's just a computer model, it's not a guarantee. So what did the professional planning officer's report do? It literally just copied and pasted both arguments, side by side, with zero professional evaluation. The committee was being asked to approve a project based on benefits that hadn't even been properly checked. And this is the fundamental change, right here.
The whole mindset has shifted. According to the source, the question isn't, does this meet the legal requirements anymore? The question has become, are the benefits so good that we can ignore the fact that it doesn't meet the legal requirements? Legal safety is now just one more thing up for debate.
So you can see how all of this funnels down to a much bigger, more fundamental question. One about power, about fairness, and about whether local democracy can even function properly under these kinds of conditions.
And the source really paints a stark picture here. On one side, you've got the winners, the investment funds, the big infrastructure companies, the shareholders who might live hundreds of miles away, all collecting the financial returns. And on the other side, well, that's the local community, the people who have to live with the visual impact, the construction noise, and, in this case, the acknowledged safety risks. Okay, so if the system is under this much pressure, what's the fix? Well, the source lays out a few big ideas aimed at restoring some balance. Things like breaking the link between getting planning permission and winning the investment race, making safety standards non-negotiable again, and forcing everyone to be transparent about the massive financial stakes at play in every single one of these decisions. And that's really the question that hangs over all of this. The source material isn't arguing against renewable energy. Not at all. It's asking whether the system we've built to deliver it has gotten out of whack, whether it's truly serving local communities in the national interest, or if it's now primarily serving the massive financial interests that have come to dominate the whole process. It's a question definitely worth thinking about.